No matter how long you've been exercising, it's critical to have a workout routine. This video will aid you in visualizing and creating your own workout routine specifically designed to your ambitions. I will propose preliminary considerations to aim your physical vision, a blueprint for organizing your musculature, workout split guidelines for planning your routine, and a short list of exercise principles to apply towards your workouts. At the end of this video, you will have clear exercise priorities with sequencing guidelines, exercise variations, and PR tracking. The philosophy of this workout blueprint is to utilize different patterns of muscle strain to facilitate superior muscle growth and recovery. The blueprint is designed to provide quick workout planning centralized around muscle recovery variances, i.e., how long it takes muscles to recover, and your specific muscle development and ambitions, for example, your body type and training specialization. There are 3 preliminary considerations one must make in order to achieve the best possible results in exercise. These considerations are the different disciplines of physical training, your specific discipline of physical training, and your current phase of physical development. So, what are the different disciplines of physical training? The main 3 physical disciplines of today are bodybuilding, powerlifting, and calisthenics. Now, you may notice disciplines missing from this list, for example, swimming, Olympic lifting, strongman, etc. However, there is a reason for this. The reasoning is that within these 3 training philosophies lies the fundamentals to all forms of physical training. Starting with bodybuilding, we find a philosophy which aims at hypertrophy of the muscle. To shape the muscles of the body proportionally and aesthetically, targeting muscle groups and isolating muscles individually. This training discipline uses multiple repetition variations of essential compound and isolation movements which are aligned with our bodily structure. The idea of this training method is to use the most effective and sophisticated replicable movement patterns to create a dense symmetrical frame of internal and external musculature. In general, gyms are typically oriented towards this style of physical training, where there are a few barbell racks, a dumbbell rack, and many isolation machines. Next, within powerlifting, we find a philosophy which aims at strength of the muscle, to advance the bodily limit of weight that can be controlled on fundamental compound movements. This training discipline uses a 1 repetition maximum variation of essential compound exercises which have the ability to overload on a barbell. The idea of this training method is to place the central nervous system and muscular system under the maximum amount of stress to where only 1 repetition can be executed with proper form, facilitating maximum muscle fiber recruitment. The main 3 lifts performed at powerlifting competitions are deadlift, bench press, and squat. In general, any gym can be used to train powerlifting. However, some training may require special equipment. It should be noted that this style of training is similar to Olympic lifting as well as strongman. The core philosophy of powerlifting is to control the most weight. Therefore, powerlifting conceptually entails the many strength-based disciplines. Lastly, within calisthenics, we find a philosophy which aims at density and synergy of the musculoskeletal system, to grow the body's muscular and skeletal system through body weight control and impact. This training discipline uses static holds or repetitive dynamic bodyweight movements, which activate some of the largest chains of muscle in the body. The idea of this training method is to heavily utilize agonist, antagonist, and synergist musculature into a position of repetitive impact or stretch that facilitates musculoskeletal growth and density. In general, sports arenas or outdoor calisthenics parks will be oriented towards this style of physical training. It should be noted that this style of training can range from a front lever to pull-ups and squats to running and swimming or gymnastics. Anything that involves bodyweight control or impact should conceptually be considered calisthenics. Thus, overall, there are 3 main forms of exercise specialization: size, strength, and shape. The thesis of this blueprint is that all of these physical specializations contain critical principles of training that must be prioritized to some capacity in order to achieve the best physique. So that brings us to our second preliminary consideration, being your vision. Now, this is the most important step of the process, as it requires honesty with your strengths and weaknesses. However, your direction should come naturally, so no need to overthink it. Regardless, your specific discipline should be based between 2 factors. The first, where your passion lies, and the second, what body you possess. Now, you already know what you're training for, however, these considerations are still important. Your passion will dictate your success. You must follow your heart in what you do. It is a key to life. However, your body contains potential, and it is wise to become one with it. So, when choosing your specialization, consider your body type and natural aptitude. On the screen, I've displayed the 3 different body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. It is worth noting that these different body types perform well in different areas. An ectomorph performs well in calisthenics, a mesomorph in bodybuilding, and an endomorph in strength training or powerlifting. Some principles to remember are that small bodies are easier to move, larger frames can put on more muscle, and mass moves mass. Regardless, in life you will find a gradient. You likely will not land in one specific category. Therefore, it is up to you to choose how to be healthy. It is also worth noting that your specialization is mental as much as physical. For example, my specialization is a reflection of my natural physical and mental aptitude, as I have had the personality of an artist my whole life, as well as natural physical aptitude in aesthetic bodybuilding, with muscle insertions, proportion, and symmetry. Despite this, I still train the 3 essential forms to a degree, as our body is a kinetic chain of action, and physical demands vary by circumstance. It is important to be well-rounded for health and function, and also it is integral to aesthetics in my opinion. Thus, well-rounded training will create a complete physique with proportion and performance, facilitating superior specialization. So, my exercise programming is a mixture of weighted calisthenics and bodybuilding movements, trained in a hybrid fashion of strength priority followed by hypertrophy. And to further illustrate my point in this section, I am showing Michael Phelps, one of the greatest swimmers of our time. As you can see, he has long arms, a long torso, big hands, and big feet. These all can be used to propel him through the water and be quicker than his opponents. In summary, your specialization dictates the roots of your training and the fruits of your labor. Your specialization will require specific exercises, and your results will reflect your quality of training. Now, the final consideration: your current phase of physical development. Your phase of muscle development will dictate the volume and frequency of your workouts. The way I benchmark phases of muscle development is through powerlifting to body weight ratios. This graphic is taken from Jeff Nippard's video, How Strong Should You Be? Credit to him. His video will be linked in the description. With this chart, you will be able to divide your 1 rep max with your body weight to discover which phase of physical development you are in. Here, I have displayed my current metrics to show you where I currently stand as well. As you can see, I am just now reaching the advanced category within all lifts. Something to keep in mind is that as you progress in weights, you will also progress in your weight. Therefore, the taller you are, the larger your strength curve will be. So, here's how you should train in these phases. As a beginner, you should train full body workouts, as this will shock the body and incentivize kinetic chain adaptation. Essentially, train compound exercises near exclusively. This is a low volume, high frequency, moderate intensity training method. The training triangle displayed shows the range of volume, frequency, and intensity you should prioritize. During this period, you will recover fast, but your form will be trash. Therefore, use this period for technique mastery. Train often, but don't destroy yourself with volume. Now, I always trained till failure, but I trained with passionate self-hatred. I paid the price for it too, by overtraining and getting very sick once. So be careful and train till failure strategically, such as the last set of an exercise. Moreover, the foundational compound exercises that I strongly recommend for men and women are listed here. But know that you can train any compound exercises that suit your body best. Next, as an intermediate, you should train workout splits. By dividing your workout routine into muscle groups, you can address weak points and ramp up training volume. What I recommend is to use this period to build mind-muscle connection, targeting asymmetries and proportion. Work on your weak points intensely and bring the body into kinetic harmony. This is a high-volume training method with periodized frequency and intensity where size and symmetry work are a priority. Essentially, alternate between periods of higher intensity and higher frequency workouts. The focus is on volume, but periodization of different training variables will promote breakthrough and plateaus. Personally, I always started my workouts as top set, back off, followed by priority isolation exercises. Additionally, in general, men may benefit most from an upper body bias split, such as push, pull, legs, with extra emphasis on the delts, while women may benefit most from a lower body bias, such as quads, upper body, hams, and arms, with emphasis on the glutes. If legs need to catch up for men, or upper body for women, switching to an upper-lower split until they equalize is ideal. Thereafter, into advanced, one should train their personalized split or specialization. Personally, I do a modified lower body bias split according to my physique blueprint. I do quads and shoulders, chest and back, hams and shoulders, with arms and core. At this point of training, your mind-muscle connection should be strong within each muscle of the body, and your kinetic chain should be able to properly execute lifts without any significant bottlenecks. Therefore, kinetic chain advancement should be your primary focus. This is a low-volume, high-frequency, high-intensity training method where specialization is the core training philosophy. Something important to remember, which has been difficult for me to implement as I have gone from thin to muscular, is that less is more during this phase and beyond. Here, the muscles do not need as much volume, just frequency and advanced recovery. Recovery and quality sets are now more important than ever, as the weight has increased to the point of danger to the body. Proper form is critical, and low volume is critical for timely recovery. Thus, unite the heart, mind, and body to bring your vision to life. The key to a great physique and a great life is focused intent. Now, let's break down how to create the perfect workout routine, starting with the physique blueprint. The first step to creating your workout routine is to perform a physique analysis. For this step, take off your clothes and stand in front of a mirror. The purpose of this step is to observe each muscle group and discover your weaknesses. That said, your body has three main views to focus on. The front, with the chest, abs, biceps, and triceps. The side, with quads, hamstrings, calves, and glutes. And the back, with lats, traps, shoulders, and lower back. Altogether, those are the main muscle groups to target during training. As you progress, there will be more specific muscles to target inside those major muscles as well, such as the 3 heads of the deltoid or 2 heads of the chest. And you can find all that kind of information in the playlist section of my channel in the future. So, now that you know the muscle groups, it's time to create the blueprint. Step 2 is ordering muscle development by structuring a list of the weakest to strongest musculature. This list will be used to structure future workouts, so take time analyzing which areas need the most work and which the least. Try to list muscles of the same group together as well, i.e. legs or back. The list now displayed shows all the different muscles to target, along with their isolated attributes. For women, glutes will replace the shoulders category. So, my physique blueprint is displayed in blue. It includes all the major muscle groups, along with whatever isolated attributes need development. Likewise, your blueprint should contain all the major muscle groups, as well as whatever isolated attributes need development for your physique. Feel free to pause the video here to arrange all the different muscles for your list. You will also want to periodically update the arrangement of your list, since priorities will shift as you make gains. Step 3 of the blueprint is to write down compound and isolation exercises, along with sequencing symbols beside each muscle. On my list, I've chosen essential compound bodybuilding movements and listed them in red next to the primary mover muscle in that exercise. Next, I listed key isolation movements in purple, and last, I labeled sequencing importance using emojis besides the checkboxes. On my list, the skull indicates the most intense and demanding core compound exercises. Meanwhile, the fire represents secondary priority compound exercises. Through this method of symbology, it becomes easy to sequence workouts by prioritizing movements based on their respective physical demand. Put simply, your workouts should always prioritize the most intense exercises first, while your muscles are fresh. So, at this point, your physique blueprint is complete, providing a clear roadmap for your training. Now, I recommend using your physique blueprint to guide your workouts entirely as a beginner. Here is how to use it. Whatever muscles are not sore or damaged from your previous workout, uncheck those boxes on the blueprint. Prioritize training all muscles symbolized by the skull, with any remaining muscles trained at your discretion following those exercises. As beginners, you should change your rep ranges from time to time and try new exercises. Using the blueprint, you will learn to listen to your body and discover which compound exercises work best for your leverages. As you begin training with the blueprint, you'll want to track your stats as well as any auxiliary information to aid in your technique. At first, your blueprint might look intimidating, but trust me, having your sets, reps, weights, and form tips all in one place is a game changer. So, this is the version I used when I was a beginner. However, I would orient the blueprint like this if I were a beginner once again. I also track my PRs like this at the bottom of the notes page, as it will enable data points of progress consistency over time. I label the date, the PR, as well as the perceived quality of the workout with an emoji. Thus, your physique blueprint should contain a list of your weakest to strongest musculature, exercise variations, both compound and isolation, symbols to sequence flexible workout routines, personal records beside compound exercises and at the bottom of the page with dates, as well as form tips to focus on. Feel free to pause the video here to adjust all these aspects on your blueprint. And if you want to keep it simple, simply track your stats and auxiliary information on a separate page. Now, after training consistently, you'll eventually enter the intermediate phase. Early on, you should continue training as I described. However, after your first plateau, you should increase the volume and shock the body for a new phase of growth. When you do this, you will need to create a workout split. This is the last split I used for my intermediate training. Essentially, I executed a personalized push-pull leg split where I used oscillating periodization of strength and hypertrophy focused exercises. For example, on one leg day, I would start with a top set of strength priority military press, 150 pounds till failure, followed by a smaller set of 115 pounds until near failure, then a hypertrophy set of squats. In the next week, I would reverse the priorities, heavy squats followed by hypertrophy military press. Every other week, I would also exchange squats for lunges and military press for behind the neck press. To simplify the entire training strategy of this phase into principles: 1. Apply advanced muscle building techniques such as drop sets, slow eccentrics, and long lengthened partials. 2. Implement bilateral and unilateral compound movements. 3. Use muscle group splits to manage higher volume training. 4. Alternate rep ranges to manage fatigue. And 5. Amplify isolation exercise focus. And as a bonus tip, learn what exercise accessories you will need for your physiology, such as knee sleeves or elbow wraps. As you advance further into the intermediate phase, you'll have to eventually drop the volume of training back down, as systemic fatigue and advanced recovery become the main priority of the next phase. Thus, that brings us to the advanced phase. My advanced workout routine consists of undulating mesocycles through oscillating volume and intensity, while building into frequency for heavy training cycles. Essentially, I undulate blocks of training to prevent accumulation of systemic fatigue, and build into high frequency as I begin a cycle of intense training. In simple terms, I lower the weight and raise the volume slightly while introducing my body to a training cycle, then shift gradually to heavier weights and lower volume. I adapt my frequency by listening to my body, and at times I will lessen intensity for recovery if necessary. I always train till near technical failure or beyond, with the use of long lengthened partials on isolation exercises. Meanwhile, on compound lifts, I try to consistently train until 1 rep in reserve. On my routine, the set counts are in red brackets before the exercise, the days are separated by rest day suggestions, and the weight and reps are listed after the exercise. Any muscle or exercise that has no number annotation is purely trained for feel, not weight. I begin my workouts with the most difficult compound lift, pairing the top set with a burnout bodyweight exercise to maximize the pump. I then train an adjacent muscle group to give the muscle a break, eventually finishing with a secondary compound or isolation movement of the primary target muscle. I also regularly implement advanced training strategies such as top sets, drop sets, slow eccentrics, and long lengthened partials. Essentially, my entire training regimen is focused on recovery. Low volume and active recovery days are critical for maintaining blood flow to the muscles and preventing fatigue accumulation. I use the foam roller and dumbbells to give the muscles a pump periodically and open up the muscles of my back multiple times a day on rest days. Now, your advanced routine should look different than mine, as I specifically designed my routine according to my physique blueprint and specialization of aesthetic bodybuilding. All in all, training during this phase is intense and requires constant adaptation. Thus, you should now know how to train according to your body, specialization, and all phases of physical development. As a bonus tip, calisthenics will always produce the best shaped muscles, so adding weight to any compound movement that uses large chains of muscle is an aesthetics secret. So, as promised, here's 12 important exercise principles I've learned to apply over my 6 years of training. The first and most important principles are the training triangle and physique pyramid. On the triangle, you can see the 3 different variables to periodize and manipulate during training: intensity, frequency, and volume. While on the pyramid, you can see the foundation of training relies upon sleep and is built upon nourishment. The second principle is getting enough sleep. I eat right before bed, dialing calories for recovery, and go to sleep 10.5 hours before my alarm during heavy training. I also aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. The third principle is to perform compound lifts before isolation exercises, warming up without exhaustion before the top set. The fourth principle is to prioritize roughly 2 compound top sets or PRs done early in the workout. The fifth principle is to exercise the upper body in multiple planes of motion. Here is a demonstration of those planes of motion in action. The sixth principle is to stimulate blood flow, then perform injury risk movements while fresh, meaning impact training first, strength training second, and stretching last. The seventh principle is that rest time will impact tension versus performance. The eighth principle is that hidden muscle damage can accumulate, such as CNS shock or joints. The ninth principle is to shock the muscle with periodized training strategies. The 10th principle is to carb cycle before training, a few hours before exercise. The 11th principle is to use exercise accessories only when they are a structural necessity or when mixed targeting. The 12th principle is to use progressive overload tracking, a PR tracker, to record tangible progress. Thus, those are some of the most important training tips I could think of. So, in conclusion, exercise is a lifestyle. It's schedule intense and structured around eating and sleeping. Sleep is the foundation for building, and food is the pillar of growth. Training is work, eating is work, and sleeping is work. However, the work is fulfilling, and you will reap lifelong fruits. In essence, use your vision to create the perfect workout routine. Build the foundation from compound movements with muscle groups and planes of motion in mind, and periodize your training, designing workout splits according to your physique blueprint. So, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.